National Fire Radio.
What's up, everybody? It's Pip, and this is another episode of The Size Up by National Fire Radio, where what you do off the job matters. And I am going to be I guess this is the first time in 90 something episodes where I'm going to act like a professional podcast host because I actually have a plan for my pregame babble here a little bit. And I've almost forgotten it like 3 times because I was talking to my guest off air because I've said this before and that's what we do. We talk off air. And what I kind of want to get into in the beginning of this relates really well to my guest, which is even more random for me because none of these things are planned, right? And I love the comments that people are giving me that they love these conversations, right? We call them episodes because I guess that's the rules in a podcast, right? You number your podcast to episodes, but I feel like, at least for me, I'm having a conversation with you. Like I'm having a conversation with my guest, just like I would on a normal day. Now, conversation in our world is almost like a lost art, right? Because we have these cell phone things and we have this easy ability to text with each other. And it's crazy because my guest today and I have been friends for a while now, mostly through text messaging or online messaging. We have had conversations, we've had face-to-faces and Zooms and things a few times. I guess that's when it was important. But most of it has been technically via texting. And I think it's something Jeremy's out there talking about right now with his Bridging the Gap program. If you're not seeing him on National Fire Radio, he's putting out a lot of his gems of knowledge. But, it's that generational gap. I see it with the boys and texting their friends. Although now that Finn is in high school, there is more FaceTiming with his friends. I feel like middle school, everything was texting, and now we're back to FaceTiming. But it's this conversation, and I'm excited to have a conversation with my man Nate Harpster today, as I mess up his name because I'm such a good friend. We've been after this conversation for years via text messaging, though, right? You were in the first batch of Size Up guests, I feel like, right?
Well, we've been talking about it for quite a while. Yeah, for sure. And like you said,
I feel like the first iteration of the
years.
podcast, I was like, Nate, you got to come on.
Yeah,
it just hasn't happened, right? We haven't been able to put the schedules together.
That's how it works,
right? Isn't that how we go today? But what do you think about this, like the lost art of conversation in not just like the fire service, but society in general?
Yeah, man. I mean, I have 2 kids as well, 2 daughters, and it definitely, one's in college, one's in high school, and I say it to them all the time. Like especially kind of my youngest, she's in her phone a lot, and she just left her friends, and then she's right back on like Snapchat or talking, whatever. I'm like, did you guys just not talk to each other like face to face and have enough conversation? Like what, like, talk to me now. Like, what's going on? It seems like when you and I grew up, I'm 48. So we didn't have any of that. We had to have those face to face conversations, and make those connections right then and there that held until the next time we saw each other again. And we were able to ruminate on stuff that we said, or think about what we're going to say the next time, So you kind of don't let emotion get the best of you. And it's not that instant world where you can be a keyboard warrior and just, I'm going to say this real quick, boom. And they're like, man, I shouldn't have said that.
So speaking of things like that, you and I have known each other on the social media world for I don't know, man, 12, 15 years now, I'd say at least, right? And I will admit this, in the beginning of my days, I was that keyboard warrior where I was just typing what I thought. I was just acting like you and I were talking, right? And saying what I wanted to. And I say it all the time, Italian from New Jersey, it goes from brain to mouth right away. And a lot of times that leads to foot in mouth. Early on in the internet days, I was definitely a foot in mouth guy. Now I am much more thinking about, words matter. And I took that from a lot of other people out there that were pointing this out. And my words matter. So I'm way more careful of as I type things now than I ever was. And that's even in text messaging with friends, where like you may say something and I fire a text back, and before I hit send, I'm like, let me read this. Nope,
dude,
that's
you're better at than
There's
I am.
no tone or intention in this.
Because I use the dang voice text half the time. So I talk to my phone and I hit send and I'm like, look, and I'm like, okay, now I got to fix that. Like, I'm like, come on, dude. So yeah, I mean, I was a communications major in college. That's which is a very broad. It was concentration in advertising and marketing type of thing, but uh, communication has always been like important to me to be able to have the eye to eye. I say this to a lot of people. I say it to my wife. It's not necessarily what you say; it's how you're saying it. There is a huge difference, and I think
Sure.
that relates into the fire service when we're doing critiques, whatever. Just talking back and forth to one another. If somebody has, seen you do something that maybe they didn't agree with, there's ways to get your point across and not come off like a. And I think that is something that's definitely missing nowadays since we're so reliant on our phones because there's no emotion in it and there's no
Yes.
movement behind it. And communication is just not words. If I just sat here and didn't move and just talk, like I'm Italian too. I talk with my hands. You make eye contact, think about inflections, and all those different things make a huge difference that it's kind of lost in this generation right now.
Yeah, and it's something that's so important to teach, right? And I know
Right.
in my own, business experience, social media experience, whatever, and I feel like I've even done this with you maybe once or twice where we would be texting about something, and finally I just got to the point where either I was so frustrated at myself or frustrated at you or frustrated at the topic where I just called you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Can you talk? Because we have to talk this out. I can't
Yep.
text this out to you because we're just not going to be able to get to the same point here." And
Yeah.
trying to teach that to my kids is like so hard.
It's an instant world, man. It's instant gratification world. It is a low um, communication value world. They just don't have that skill set. They have this skill set down really, really good, better than most, and I think it's important to have it. But that face to face is I think where true communication happens. And you're right, it needs to be taught, and it needs to be taught in the fire service too. I mean, you see, and I'm
Yeah,
guilty of it,
we're,
brother,
we're
and I'm sure
adapting.
you are too. You sit at the table and you see a bunch of guys on their phone instead of talking. Whereas when you and I'm sure first came on, that wasn't available. It was the paper, coffee, and we were shooting the shit. That was it.
Well, the newspaper, like when you talk about
Yeah.
being like the old salty fireman, you know that if you had a newspaper on your table or if you touch someone's newspaper, like we had a guy that like if he put it on the table and if you wanted to see the sports and took it out before he did, your shift was ruined because he was going to
Oh man.
ride you the entire shift for whatever reason because you messed with his
Yeah.
paper.
Don't touch that crossword neither, because that's someone's crossword. I was actually, this is a funny deal. I took over our station kitty years ago, and I was the first person to get rid of the newspaper at the station. It was during this time where
Oh,
social
oh man.
media and alternative forms of media were just so available, and I was like, guys, why are we paying for this paper? A paper that was bashing us at the time too. I'm like, forget it, dude. We're gonna dump this paper, and man, the upheaval. And now there's not one single fire station that gets the newspaper. I mean, I wasn't the first person in the department to do it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying at our house. I was like, we're getting rid of it. We're getting rid of it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's not worth the money.
We just did a shrimp broil the other night, and the one dude was like, "Where are we gonna get the newspaper to lay everything out on? Because you can't even get. I mean, you can get a newspaper, but no
Yep.
one does, right? It used to just be lying around. Like that was like
Heck
the
yeah.
recycling. You had to take out the newspapers too. And it's okay that those things changed, right? And it's
Yeah.
okay. I say this all the time. It's okay to be on your phone at the table. Like we're all
Mm-hmm.
doing it. I'm just as guilty. But let's try to hark back a little bit to the day where we aren't all doing it. Like we don't
Yeah.
need to Google the answer right away. Let's argue about how many miles the moon is away from the earth or who may know who went to the moon first or whatever before we just go to the Google because that's
Yeah.
fun. And teaching younger firefighters that fun, I feel like is part of our job as the old dudes floating around to be like, look, man, this is something that was done in years past, and it's
Yep.
still going to be fun. You just have to keep up doing it.
I agree. I mean, around the chow table is definitely some of the best times you're ever going to have. on the job. Fighting fires is obviously great. Um, Running calls, training, awesome. But I really think, and there's an FDNY guy that said this way better than me, but those are the moments that you long for long past your retirement. You just want to be there with the guys, busting each other's balls at the table, laughing, talking about each other's families. That's the brotherhood right there. And it's so important, like you said, to make sure that the young guys understand the value of that time.
Yeah, I mean, our shift, we do shift change at 8. You get in before 8 whenever you are, but we don't really start our day until 8:30 is like our radio check, and then the rigs get checked and housework gets done. So that 8 to 8:30 time is like the best time to just kind of download what you did on your 72, what happened the shift before, who knows what, where it is, what's happening in the world. And that probably half an hour out of my 24 is by far my favorite, consistent favorite half an hour, like throughout my career, I would say.
Yep. Yeah. Great times. Yeah. That morning shift change is great. And then the chow time. I mean, it's just, I love it. That's what you think about. Um, when you come to work, you're like, I want to talk to the guys, want to hang out in the kitchen. I want to cook some chow. We want to, maybe we'll run a job, I hope. And, just spend time, go to the boys club for 24 hours and hang out with the fellas
Yeah,
and have a great time.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm sure your wife says the same thing as my wife. Like, oh, you're off to your clubhouse again. Like,
Yeah.
you climb
Yeah.
the tree and you get in there. It's like Step Brothers, right? Like if we had
It
a
is.
Wookiee mask, it would be even better.
It is. Yeah. If we have, we were 40. No, it's true. It's true. And I think, in that for them, I think is uh, gives them a little peace is that, hey, he's going to hang out with his buddies, and I think that's in a funny way, that's a guarding system for spouses. It's like they're going there and hanging out with their buddies,
Sure.
and once in a while, tell my wife if she's saying something like that. I'm like, yeah, but this is what we did today. These are the calls we went on today. Uh, so it's not always going to hang out with the boys. We are hanging out with the boys, but there's a lot of heavy shit that we do. That hanging out with the boys is the remedy, I guess, to a lot of the heavy shit we see, and that's what a lot of people see. It's just, hey, they're going to hang out. These guys, I'm sure you see it being on the job as long as you have, on social media as long as you have. These guys, they get paid to sleep, they get paid, to go grocery shopping. Who's paying their bill? They're working out, blah blah blah. I'm like, the general public has no idea. They have no idea. Yes, we hang out with our brothers for 24 or 48 hours, whatever your shift schedule is. But there's a lot of, like I said, heaviness that can happen in that time frame, and I think it's just important for us and the public to just realize that and appreciate it. Not appreciates maybe a bad word. I don't care if somebody appreciates the job I do, but they should recognize that it's not just that boys club.
That's the word. You just said it right there. Recognition, right? You have to recognize that, yeah, we do sleep at work. There are beds there. We do work out while we're at work. We do have a good time with our friends, but we also deal with all of these heavy things too. And they may not be happening as much as the workouts are happening or as much as the meals
Right.
are happening. But one heavy event changes the course of my life, of my family's
Mm-hmm.
life, that forever. And
Mm-hmm.
it's happened to so many. It happened to all of us. One call. There's not a emergency service provider that can't go to one call in their mind that they will never forget that changed everything about them. And those other times are part of our coping mechanism. And I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
big thing now with what we've seen in our careers for sure. And especially being in the health and wellness industry on the side, kind of that change that we're making, right? Nobody knew these things that we saw. You go on car accidents and you see things and you see injured people. No one ever put that correlation together that over time that's going to affect you. Now that they are, this recognition that you just brought up is so key for how we deal with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's an avenue for us. I mean, this month is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I think that's a great segue into that. Is we do deal with a lot of stuff, and that brotherhood is like I said, our medicine. But we also have to realize that, guys, if you need help with something, talk to somebody first and foremost. Lean on your brothers. Don't be afraid to say, "Hey, man, this call fucked me up. Like, I don't know what's going on. Blah blah blah." You have to off gas that. You have to um, make sure that you're keeping your mind right. And to your point, we do see all these things, and it's a cumulative effect. Just it's microdosing over 20, 30 years of seeing things, of recognizing when you're driving down the street, like, oh, dude, I remember on that corner, this happened. This guy got shot. You should have seen this dude's so messed up, or over here's where that kid drowned, or, just all these things that we as kind of the front line on in the U.S. Like I talked to a veteran a while ago, and just about everything that they've done and they've seen when deployed. And he said, listen, dude, like we went through some bad things. We've seen our buddies, killed, injured. Uh, Obviously, had we were in war, and we do bring that back with us. And that veteran community, I'm so appreciative of every single day for what we have here. But what he said to me really like kind of changed my mindset on it. He goes, "You guys, fire police officers, you guys have all these kind of traumatic events that happen right in your own community. So when you're driving the kids to school or you're going grocery shopping, you see that street corner, you see that house, you whatever, see that tree that this car was wrapped around, and that is like a constant every single time you go by it. You're hitting that memory. So it's not going away, and it's not in he said it's not lessening what we did or what traumas we had there, but we're not having that repeat of it every single day.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, I never really thought of that, and you're right, you know. Uh, so it's
Yeah, like
just
the veterans aren't back at their battlegrounds where these things happened, where we're in them if you live in the community you work in. And
yeah,
it's interesting you bring that up because I did move a few years ago out of the community that I work in, and it's been a
mm,
great thing for my family. I never really thought it was as big of a deal for me as a firefighter, where a lot of the law enforcement officers I know moved away very rapidly. And they were like, I can't be shopping in the grocery store with my daughter and see the guy I locked up for spousal abuse the night before shopping next to me with his
mm-hmm,
wife. He's like,
mm-hmm,
or I can't be coaching the little league team of the kid whose parent I just locked up last night for some type of drug offense. He's like, I have to get
right,
out of here. He's like, this is becoming way too much for me, and almost to an unsafe level too. But even mentally, to get over that type of a thing, like at
yeah,
school drop off, you're seeing these other people that and I've never really thought about it as much for us, like you just said it, like that veteran pointed it out to it. But yeah, when we're driving around in the apparatus, I'm like, oh, I had a fire in that house. Oh, I had a pediatric cardiac arrest on that corner, or a motorcyclist struck on this street. And that's just one more thing adding to this cumulative effect that could negatively affect us.
yeah, yeah. And I have a bunch of friends that aren't in the fire service that I grew up with, and over in your kind of neck of the woods. I grew up in Buffalo, so um, I have some friends that we take trips every year. We do stuff, and they are completely shocked at like just seeing how many dead people we've seen. I mean, it's I they they act like when the thing happened in Buffalo with Damar Hamlin and the CPR in the field and all the people with the oh my god, that was so traumatic for me and blah, and, I'm like, okay, maybe it
Sure.
was. They've never seen that. They've never seen in person live. That's something I mean, man, I don't even know how many times we've seen CPR, let alone done CPR or seen just a person that's already expired. I mean, you can't count it, right? And it's become normal, and it's not normal. And I think we forget that a lot. Like, that's not normal to see that stuff all the time. It's our job. 100%. It is our job, but it's not normal. That doesn't, so you can't take the human
No,
side
not at
out of
all.
it.
And I
We
do
are
think
still
that the
humans.
change is so hard, right? And then the change that we're seeing by us recognizing these things, I feel like is so good. It gives me so much hope for the future. I mean,
Mhm.
I've talked about it a little bit on the show, but my wife and I had a pre-hospital cardiac arrest save at like our local restaurant slash bar. And after the man was going off to the hospital, we washed our hands and went back to our seats at the bar while all the other patrons were just like, and
Yeah.
then we've gone back there since, and there's always someone that knows the two of us as the people who did the CPR, and they're always like, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" And I
Yep.
was like, "We just did it," but it really did affect both of us because we weren't in work mode that night, right? Like we
Hmm.
were in date mode. Um,
Right.
but recognizing it, talking about it, and working through it is so much better than what we did in the past of just compartmentalizing it, or
Yeah.
honestly just drinking it away because that was a
Yeah. Drinking it.
huge issue in the emergency services in the past.
Sure. Sure. And I think you and I recognize this, but uh, one of the best ways to combat that, in my opinion, is working out, is getting physical, is maintaining, that level of fitness, because that is, to me, the greatest stress relief. When I can't work out, my wife knows. Like if I've been in, because I've been injured a couple of times, she goes, "Man, you're an asshole. You need to go work out. You need to throw a ruck out, go for a walk, go do something." Because that's my stress relief right there, and it's that's why I'm so passionate about it. Besides the health and wellness aspect of it, physically, there's that mental side too. Of course, the longevity side.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that exactly. I feel like my passion for it all is because it is my mental health release. And it's crazy you brought that up because I just talked to Finn about it. Finn and I had a little guys road trip. He had something going on in another state, and we started talking about me running marathons and me working out so much. And I asked him, why do you think I do it? And he gave me those answers like to stay healthy because your job needs you to be fit. He's like, and I know it helps you just kind of get through life because he's kind of seen that and he's 14, so he's old enough to understand it. But I really broke it down for him even more and trying to instill the importance in him doing it to not fall into any negative habits or trends that are so easy and that importance of being out there. And that's it for me, man. I think at this point, I'm gonna go at like 80% fitness for me is mental. And that
Mm-hmm.
other 20% is like, let me look good on the beach and pump my fist and do good at my job, and all that kind of stuff physically. But really, it's what it does for my mind.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's hugely mental for me, and as I've gotten into the later stages of my career, just like you, I want to be able to perform. I mean, I'm a backseat guy, so I I, I want to be able to perform my job to the best of my ability and still kick ass and hold my own with the young guys. Like 100%, I want to be able to do that. But as I look kind of down the road to the next, maybe retiring in about 8 years, how am I preparing myself for retirement too? Am I going to walk out healthy, ready to, attack my retirement? That's kind of the crossroads I'm at right now. I'm one of those guys that all of a sudden now I'm looking at retirement stuff, and making the exit plan. And I want my exit plan to include being really friggin' healthy and being able to do whatever I want and not be dependent on anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that exit plan is key, and it's not something that you can start 2 months before you want to exit. Your
No.
exit plan needs to start when you have about half of your career done. In my mind, that's kind of when I started it. And now that I'm getting even closer with just 4 years to go, it is. And I think the people that listen every week are probably like, why does he talk about retirement so much? But it is one of the most important things. And it's not what I'm going to do, it's how I'm going to be in retirement. Am I going to
Mm-hmm.
be healthy? Am I going to be able to cope? Am I going to miss that adrenaline rush? Am I going to look back at things that I could have done differently? Or even more scary for me is, are the ghosts or demons that I've managed to cope with, going to come back? Because I feel like that I'm able to put some of those bad calls away because I'm I'm filling them with new goals. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah,
filling my mind with new things that are bad. So some of the
yeah,
super bad ones are going further away. Are they going to come back? I have no idea, but I want to be as prepared as I can be for when that day occurs.
yeah. And you kind of hit the nail on the head. You can't wait towards the twilight of your career to start focusing on that, because you're creating habits and consistency, throughout your career that you're going to continue to build upon, like getting that 1% better every day. And the sooner you start that, the greater the deviation, obviously, towards the end of your career, towards a net positive, if it's a positive 1%. So yeah, absolutely. And I think when you do set yourself up early, you do create those good habits, and you are able to detach from the fire service when you leave. Yeah, you're going to miss the guys. Stop in, have lunch, have chow with them, but you're going to be healthy enough to do whatever the hell you want to do. Go hike, go take a road trip somewhere, go on a cruise, do zip line, do whatever you want, do run ultras, whatever you want to do in retirement. If you set yourself up right, you're going to be able to do that stuff. And you're not going to be one of those guys that, you read about where, hey, we got to go cut his lawn, or we got to go help him out. He's in a bad way, lost a leg, diabetes, this and that, heart condition. Like that is all preventable if you really focus on it and make it a part of your profession. Because in my opinion, that's what it is. It is part of your profession.
Well, I know that for sure because you are probably the most staunch advocate for it on social media that I followed throughout my time on social media. I mean, you even got me beat by miles with the amount of stuff that you've been doing. Or I should say, I don't want to say the amount of stuff you've been doing, but just everything you've put into it, right? That like full circle thing. And you can see it. Your passion for it really shows. And trying to get others just to find that one thing that you're doing that they may like. Especially when you had your last surgery, I think was your shoulder, right?
Bicep,
Like
yep.
watching your comeback from that shoulder was, yeah, you couldn't sit still, man. You were out
Hmm.
there doing stuff with your other arm 2 days after, I think.
Yeah, it is hard. Now, I'm not saying that's the smartest thing to do, but that's kind of my mentality, and I appreciate it, man. There is a lot of passion behind it. I truly do want to motivate people into consistency. Like I love, people send me messages a lot, and say, hey, thanks for getting me off the couch. Thanks for the workout idea today. You know, just get these messages, and that's the payoff for me. Truly, is making an impact in somebody's behavior for that day, and then hopefully the next day. Come to me for motivation, awesome, but start creating your own habits. Start creating your own, uh, you know, consistency, whatever that is to you. It doesn't have to be the same workout, but if you get up and do half of it or do double it, if that's where you're at, then right on, man. And I do have eyes on me, and a lot of comments, a lot of keyboard warriors, and I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not the strongest guy on the job by any means. I am not the smartest guy on the job by any means, um, but I am consistent in my mindset of how to be prepared for this job, and my passion of how to be prepared for this job and beyond. And it's for my brothers on the truck and for my family at home. And guys, it's okay. It's for you too. I mean, it's we're living our own lives. We don't. If you live it constantly for somebody else, you're shortchanging yourself. So put the effort in, be healthy, and perform good on this job, man. I do have a lot of passion about it. I don't know. I could rant on it for a while.
You can totally rant on it, and I know that. And you
Yeah.
snuck this in there before, and I love it. That 1% better attitude and mentality. And that's what I think a lot of people like the keyboard warriors out there don't really understand or appreciate about a guy like you. And I'll even kind of say like a guy like me. I just want you to be that 1% better. And if you see me, I'm putting it out there, not for me. I'm putting it out there so some stranger may do something, right? I
Hmm.
can't say, and you can't say we've ever a post that we've made about our personal fitness journey or whatever you want to call it, motivation, change someone's life, right? I have
Right.
no idea if that's the case or not. It's probably happened, or people have told me it's happened. But if I can get them to do one thing one time, hey, that's it, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that's exactly what you're doing. And those folks don't understand that, and they'll never understand it because they're just asshats. There, I said
Yeah,
it.
no, I love it. I'll be doing the workouts at the back of the fire truck, and hose lay may not look perfect, and someone will comment on that. You know, um, you just get the most oddball stuff. It's so
Right.
funny. Like one of my recent ones, with putting all the gear on for our high rise assignment, like what we could potentially have to
Oh
carry.
yeah, yeah. And then someone said it was
Dude,
wrong weight. Did I see that? Right?
yeah. Well, I was a but yeah. Well, and I did a follow up because a buddy of mine was like, "Really, it weighs that much?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, come on up." So I did the follow up to it. But man, if you want to have an entertaining evening, put some popcorn on and go through the comments of that post. It's they're beautiful, and then people start going back and forth, and I'm just like, all right, whatever. You got a lot of guys that are obviously flatlanders that don't do any high rise stuff. And people do stuff different, guys. I mean, when you're before, I'll just say this before you comment on someone's post, do a little research, dig who they work for, uh, figure out what, maybe their SOPs are different because they're vastly different across the country. I was an East Coast firefighter for a while. I was a volunteer firefighter. Okay. Back in the East Coast kind of system, and now I'm out in the West Coast in the Arizona area, bigger department there. And I will just say our SOPs are far different than yours, Pip. I guarantee you. And
A
but that
hundred
doesn't
percent.
mean yours is wrong or mine's wrong or yours is right. Yours is
Yeah.
right. This is how we do things, and it's just entertaining. You read them and you go, okay, they have no idea. They have no idea. So I don't even rebut to any of them, barely.
What do they say in Texas? Bless their heart. That's what they say in
Bless
Texas.
their
Bless their
hearts.
heart.
Yeah, I
Right?
let
That's it.
other people
And
do the
it's
talking.
so yeah. Well, you don't even have to at this point with your page because I've
Right.
I've read the comments. Like people will just go, and it was something too we had way back early on with 555 where we were going back at people, and then it got to the point, and I even think you were one of the guys that we didn't have to go back because you were commenting, like, "Hey, these guys are this is what this is." You know what I mean? Like
Right.
this is what this is. Don't why are you throwing negative shade at people just trying to get other people healthier, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense, but it's always going to happen. And I think your
Mm-hmm.
understanding of it is key. And look, someone says your weights are wrong. You went and stood on a scale and we're like, here's the weights. This is where I got them from. I didn't think I was going to have to prove this to whoever you
Yeah.
are.
Exactly. Exactly. But it is fun. It is entertaining, and it's great. I mean, I love the interaction. So and that's
Mm.
the double edged sword with social media. You're going to have people that love it. You're going to have people that hate it, and you can't entertain both. You certainly aren't going to. You're not going to make the people that hate it happy and ever. So hey, hate it. Good for you.
I love it because, like, when I see like your messy hose load, I'm like, well, I guess ours isn't so bad if he's got a messy hose load. So we got a messy hose load too today. Like, it just is
Yeah.
what it is. You don't know what happened last night or any of those types of things, you
Right.
know. But it's such a good thing. And now being, I'm talking to a communications major, and I suck at this podcast host job. But like, let's go back to the part 30 minutes ago we should have really done is kind of how you got involved in all this. Like, if you were in college for communications with an advertising concentration, now you're a career firefighter. So how did you go from
Yeah.
that to let's get into this crazy fire truck world?
Dude, yeah. So like I said, I was a firefighter, a volunteer firefighter, small town called Grand Island, New York. It's between Buffalo and Niagara Falls, and I just fell in love with it, man. Just all the adrenaline parts of it, the quick thinking parts of it, the being there at someone's worst day part of it. Like I actually liked it. I liked being the calm in someone's storm, and as I kind of went through school, as I graduated college and got some, meaningless desk job, I didn't even use my degree like many people don't. I ended up being a cubicle warrior in a biotech company, doing some sales, and I just had this thing gnawing at me that I wanted to make this my profession. And I remember driving to a training one day. We were driving along the Niagara River, and I was in it was an older truck. It was open cab in the back, kind of like backdraft style, just really cool old truck. And I remember just like looking like, you know what? I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, I do not want to be sitting behind a desk. I want this is what I want. And from that point forward, I kind of made it my mission to attain that, and started taking tests with Buffalo Fire. Did take their test and passed, and just got put far down the list for different various reasons. And I ended up coming out west to Phoenix, Arizona on a vacation, and I had heard about Phoenix. Bruno's impact is nationwide, right? In fact, I got the Be Nice hat on right here. That's a Brunoism, right? And when I visited, the guys were just so fun. They were just so cool. Like, not like Joe cool, but like, hey, come on in. Tell me what you guys got going on back there. Like, tell me about you. Have some chow with us. That was something I was completely alien to, because as a volunteer, there's a lot of times I feel like back east there's that rift between volunteer and paid.
Sure.
At least there was back then, and that was not a thing when I went and sat down at the chow table with these guys from Phoenix. That I was like, holy crap! So I ended up flying
You
back and
probably wanted
forth.
to hear more about like snow and ice once they found out
They
where you were
probably did.
from.
They're
They
like,
were like,
what is
what's the
that?
cold like?
Yes. Yeah, they were entertained by
This is foreign to me. What is
stories of ice
ice?
skating by the rig, when you're going to grab, tool off, and it's been dumping a little bit of water out and it's negative 20, like stuff you're very familiar with. Um, Putting your turnout coat
I
on
was at
just
a
to stay
fire.
warm.
We were in the bucket. We were in the bucket at this. Ended up being like a 4 alarm job or whatever. But like, so frozen that we had to put the ladder. We couldn't climb the ladder because the aerial device was so iced every time. We had to put it down to get to switch crews out. But
Dang.
one of the chiefs fell, and his helmet was like right in front of him, and we're up in the bucket and we're watching him try to get his helmet while he's on his hands and knees, and his helmet is just sliding and he's just sliding. It would have been the most viral video ever. I would have never posted it because he would have killed me like easily.
Yeah.
And I would never say his name out loud. But watching this chief just reach for the helmet as it just kept sliding away with the building burning in the background. Classic Northeast firefighting right there. Winter
That's
firefighting
awesome.
at its best.
I love that.
So they wanted those
Yeah.
stories from you, man. That was it. That's why they were so nice to you.
It's foreign.
Now you know.
It's completely foreign to them. Yeah, no. And then, so long story short, man, I just started. I said, I want to be part of this department. I just love their vibe, and so I started flying back and forth. And then didn't have success in that because it's hard to be an outsider, really, and get hired. So I picked up in 2003 and I moved out here, and put every single effort I had into getting hired, and 2005 got hired. It was a big move. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any plan but to get hired with the fire department.
That's so cool. I've heard so many different stories at this point in my career about, how people got on the job, but I think yours may be the first. I was on vacation and rolled into a firehouse and was like, yep, this is where I want to land. Like, I've heard people pick the area that way, but usually not like, nope, this is it. This is cool. So good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing to hear people do that. To me, that's very refreshing to hear that you traveled so far and you did that. And when you have a lot of young listeners like we do with podcasts, it's the same thing, man. Just try, right? Take those tests. You never know if this is what you want.
It's okay to follow your passion, guys. If that's it, like, people like, man, you spend all that money on college, and you're not even doing something in your field. Like, so what? Like, I don't regret going to college at all. And I certainly don't regret moving across the country at all and getting hired. The same station that I visited when I was taking the test is the station I work at now. So it's full friggin' circle.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a crazy, when you think about it, it is absolutely crazy. And that move was the best move in my life. I mean, got the dream job, ended up meeting my wife. I have two beautiful daughters. We got a beautiful house. I mean, it's okay to follow your passion. Like if this is something you truly want to do it. But here's the thing that I left out. It takes a lot of work. It's not just, hey, I'm just going to go test and see how this goes. Like, hey, listen, I moved 2,000, whatever the miles, I don't know. You guys can fact check me and hit me up later. But from
Right in
Buffalo to
right in the
Phoenix,
comments. I need the
yeah,
interactions
right
right in the
there.
comments how he's wrong about the
And
miles.
yeah, and I put in the work, guys, and it's not a singular story. That's a story over and over again. You want something, you put in the work. You get fit, make sure you're fit. Get your mind right for this job. Volunteer. That's one of the questions I get asked all the time. What should I be doing to get hired? Are you working with anybody? Are you involved with any affinity groups? Are you doing ride-alongs? Are you do like those are all boxes that need to be checked. You need to be putting in the effort, and you need to be getting immersed in the culture, knowing the culture of the department that you're working to get hired. Because I guarantee you, while we have a lot of similarities, my culture is probably different than the culture at your firehouse, and just the culture from neighboring departments might be different. You have to be a chameleon in that aspect and know your audience, know who you're testing for. And guys, the biggest thing is be physically ready to do the damn job because it's just, to me, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources if you're not ready to carry the actual load that you are going to be asked to do.
And I think too with that, and that kind of like how you get to this part, like this point in your life. And I always tell people this is like, get an EMS job. And the answer is always like,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to be a firefighter. And it doesn't really matter because fire jobs are way harder to come by than EMS jobs. And
Mm-hmm.
inoculating yourself into that culture and patient care, which most fire departments are
Yep.
doing right now, whatever you want to think or whatever you're told, there are
Yeah.
very few places that are not doing some form of EMS. But
Mm-hmm.
it's still a job that is a great career, a great job, and a great way to help you get into this community, as opposed to saying like I'm gonna work in the mall and want to be a
Right.
firefighter.
No, hey, your reputation, you start building reputation, right? And what I always tell people is once you make, you start getting kind of immersed in the culture, you take that EMS job, you start doing ride alongs, make sure you're making a good damn reputation because it is going to precede you into any room, into any interview, into any station. You look at the roster for the day. Hey, Robert Papardo's coming here. Awesome, solid fucking dude. Happy to have him. Or you got,
Who's that guy?
if you've done a shitty job, right? Like this dude's coming here today. Oh God! And then you got to tell the rest of the crew, listen, don't listen to this guy. Don't, whatever he does, do the, we all have those guys. Do the opposite. Like you don't want to be that person. You want to be the person people are psyched to see at the interview table, right? And you want to be the person that people are psyched to see at the dinner table. So that's the kind of mentality you have to have.
I love that kind of stuff too because I've interviewed a few people who run explorer programs, which aren't very big here on the East Coast, but are huge out in the West Coast.
Right.
And talking to them about their passion for what they're doing with the explorers or their prep group that they're prepping people for, is they're making that individual, the good individual you just talked about from day one, like in
Right.
inoculating them and teaching them the ways to kind of go about these things and do them and have that positive interview prep.
Yeah. No, it's so important. I mean, and it is hard to get hired. And I think it was harder back when I was getting hired. I mean, it seemed like the convention center here was just thousands of people for 50 jobs, 100 jobs. And the numbers have dwindled a little bit as far as people taking the test. So, damn, your chances are better. Make a good impact, put in the work, and you have a pretty friggin' good shot at getting hired. And guys, it's such a good job. I mean, we have our ups and downs. Each department has their woes and whatnot, but man, we have such a great job. It is so much fun. Look at the shit we get to do. And like circling back to the beginning, you get to hang out with your buddies for 24 hours and then maybe go to their kids' parties and hang out and go on vacation, shit like that. I mean, guys, it's a dream job. But you got to put in the work. You got to earn it.
I mean, you get to do stuff like this where you and I are on separate ends of the country, and we've been friends now for however many years it's been because
Yeah.
of this job. You know, we have the
Yeah.
fitness connection too, but in reality, we met because we were both firefighters, right? And had a
Yep.
lot of common interests. And that expansion, you know, you don't see that in other career paths. You know, like
Right.
carpenters in New Jersey don't regularly talk to carpenters in Arizona. I don't think, at
Right.
least. I'm not a carpenter, and please, in the comments, you can yell at me about that, right? But, you know,
Yeah.
like there's not a lot of plumbing podcasts out there, I don't think. Look at how many fire podcasts there are out there, right?
Right.
Again, if I'm wrong, correct me, internet. But that's the part too when kids come to me, and not even just kids. I mean, now we're to a point. I feel like my department is hiring more adults than kids. There's more people making a transition from a different career into the fire service. But I try to tell them all the goods and all the bads and give them the
Mhm.
full picture for it because that's the best way to be prepared.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, you're right. And that's why it's called the brotherhood, especially with social media, man. It seems like um, it's just expanded that and um, helped deepen that brotherhood. You just have access to so much more, and you're seeing so much more what different departments are doing. And I love it. I love hopping on and looking at, hey, how are they packaging a down firefighter or a patient? How are they forcing this door? Like all these different tools are there for us to look at and use. And what are these guys doing for fitness? What are these guys doing for fitness? That is cool. It's there's so much for as much negativity as there is, and we were talking about these things being a distraction. They're a tool. They're just like a chainsaw. I mean, you can cut your leg off a chainsaw real quick, and you can ruin your life with one of these real quick too. But it is a tool, and
Real
you can
quick.
do really cool. You can do really cool things with this, and you can learn a lot if you get out of your own way sometimes. And I think that's important too. Like, don't get stuck in your own ways. Be open to change.
Dude, I mean, we can go kind of current event when you said that. And this is going to come out in a few weeks, but just yesterday, and I can't remember who did it, there's a ladder splicing video where they got a woman out of a fire on a fourth floor. Did you see that?
No, I did not see that.
It's like a 35-foot ground ladder to a
Okay.
roof ladder straight up a brick wall with a woman coming down it.
Yeah.
And I've seen people teaching ladder splicing forever. I've never gone to one of the classes where they've done it. And I'm always
Mm-hmm.
like, God, I guess if you have to do that at some time, it's cool to know you can do it. You know, what are the different
Yeah.
ways you can do it? Is it ever going to happen? Nah, that's never going to happen. Sure as shit. There it is yesterday coming out on the internet
Yeah.
of ladder splicing for a rescue because they couldn't get the truck in for whatever reason.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, that's something. I mean, and those guys were ready to do it, obviously. So, I mean, there you go. Like, train.
Hey, sorry about that. Sometimes life gets in the way.
No worries, man. Yeah, I understand.
Let me see. Let me just get a timestamp here so I can start this thing again. All right, sorry, folks. I had to kind of take a call there and cut Nate off in his talking, and I kind of lost track to where we were at. I know we were talking about getting the job and moving on, that kind of stuff, right? Is that where we were? I think.
Yeah, I think we were there somewhere. We were just rapping about what it takes to get hired, and you know, yeah, I think that was it. That was it. Um, I know, one of our passions has been the fitness side of it. Like what motivated you? I guess I got a question for you. What motivated you to start kind of getting into the social media space and promoting that sort of stuff?
I mean, dumb luck in reality, right? Like, I was into fitness, for getting the job, just being smaller than everyone else, and realizing that I had to be in really good shape if I was going to, because I took a lot of tests like you did, and I just kept missing it, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what am I missing it for? Am I not studying enough? Am I not strong enough? Well, I study more, I got stronger. So fitness had always been important. And then the social media thing was, I was paying attention on Facebook, and Instagram was really new at the time, and discovered 555, Larry was running it out of Texas and was like, dude, this guy's got some cool stuff. And I kind of jumped in, maybe being a little bit of a keyboard warrior with some of his workouts that he was putting out. But it came to my inability to do them because the rower at our station, it didn't count. The computer was ripped off years before that. I'm like, I can't do 200 meters. I need a time. You need to feed me more information. And he was from a very larger fire department with a lot of fitness equipment in it and didn't understand in a way that like what I was talking about. Like, no, they don't buy us fitness equipment. We bring in stuff from home or garbage pick it
That's
at the
crazy.
time.
Yeah.
So that kind of led to social media. And it led me down this crazy journey of all this that you see.
That's one of the things that amazes me from every time I talk to people now throughout the country and really throughout the world, as crazy as that sounds, and that's not being egotistical or anything like that. Like I have people from Chile that talk to me, from Germany that talk to me, firefighters, and but here in the States, the differences in fitness emphasis that departments that put into, or the different emphasis that departments put into fitness, like shocks me. Like there's some departments that it's not a priority at all, and it is something that, hey, work out on your own time, and then you go full.
There are still departments that people aren't allowed to work out in.
Yes, and that is unbelievable.
Like you're not allowed at all to work out.
Yeah, crazy for this job.
Right.
And go 180 to your department, to my department, where it is encouraged and the culture of fitness is just expected. It is not hey, are you going to work out today? It's like, what are you doing today? Like, we do skills courses, not always in our turnouts. We're getting a little smarter with that. But I still do my turnouts, guys. So I don't need the haters on that either. I use my blue gear from Karna Bunker Gear. Check them out. Little shout out
using
to them.
blue gear from Karna. I did see that.
Yeah,
I did see you going to the Karna gear, which is good. I'm happy for that.
It is legit. I think it's important to train in your turnouts to know the restriction, the weight, the heat, all that stuff. But you can't just be doing that. You need to be in the gym, whether it's HIIT training, lifting weights. Admittedly, again, I'm not the strongest guy. I could work better on the big lifts, the heavy lifts, but I kind of play to my strengths a lot of times, and that is the higher intensity workouts with sandbags and whatnot. I like that stuff, and I think it's very applicable to the fire ground. I think it's very appropriate for our career, and you got to have that kind of 360 approach to your fitness, involving different modalities and diet, all the thing. I mean, we don't have that much time left, but it's not just eating right. It's not just doing the bro sessions, like, and it's not just doing the HIIT sessions. Like, you've got to combine all that to be ready to do this job.
Yeah, and I mean that's definitely something I've learned over time of like it's not just CrossFit, it's not just HIIT, it's not just running marathons, it's not just swimming. It's everything. You need to be doing a little bit of everything in one way, shape, form, or another to survive this job. And I totally agree with that. And I wish I had a way to bottle that and teach it, because then maybe we'd be able to make a lot of money, but it's just impossible in my mind.
It is. Yeah, you can't sell that. Well, you know what it is? It comes down to here and here, and for those just listening, it's your mind and your heart. Like, what are you willing to put in to it? How much are you willing to go? And it is something that you cannot teach. You can't teach heart. You can kind of teach mindset, but you're going to weed people out quick. Like, you have to have that mindset of I'm going to go. I'm going to accomplish this goal. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to stay fit. I'm not going to sit in the straddle, and we call them straddle, so recliner. I'm going to get up and maintain the promise. Keep the promise to yourself. Keep the promise that you made when you sat at that interview table. Or like Gary Picari, one of our kind of a famous quote that he had is live your interview. Like, are you living your interview every single day? And only you can answer that question. A lot of people can tell you, but only you can truly answer that question. And it's not easy to do because we can't get lax, we can't get lazy, and you got to hold yourself accountable. I mean, that's no one else is going to do it. People will tell you what you need to do, but it's up to you to truly hold yourself accountable. And I, that's again, I can rant on it all day, and you can listen to Jocko quotes, you can listen to whoever David Goggins, you can have him yelling in your ear, "Come on, let's go," But until you put yourself in those situations, until you are able to push yourself, your mindset, your heart, you're until you hold yourself accountable, you're not doing it. You're not doing it right. You have to have that.
I've never heard that live your interview quote, and I love it. Like I've heard, and I've said a lot, like, be the guy you were the first day you walked in the door. But the live
Yeah,
your interview is even more because that was when you
yeah,
were really effing hungry and were
yeah.
saying all the things you thought they
Hmm.
wanted to hear or you believed were the ultimate way to get the job.
Yeah.
That's it,
It's
man.
it's it's
That is a great way to kind of wrap this one up a little bit too, man. And I'm glad you gave your buddy quote. Say who it is again that said it, because I didn't.
It's Gary Picari. He's no he passed away. He was on long before I was. That quote is on uh, many doors at many firehouses in Phoenix. Um, and it's something that I think any any generation, any person walking in and out of these doors should 100% um, hold themselves accountable to.
Hell yeah. And it goes for any profession. It's not just firefighting. If you're an
Yeah,
actor, live your audition. Live your, that's it. You're at your most hungriest at that point. You have nothing and that's your point to
yep,
get something, right? So whether
100%.
you're a doctor or whether you're whatever you are, man, that works, dude. That is awesome.
Well,
Hey, this is
yeah, I
why we
think it
have
comes.
podcasts like this, because you
That
get these
is.
gems.
Well, yeah, and it's true. You are your hungriest at that point. It taps into your passion for the job. Do what you said you were going to do,
100%.
and it's
Yep.
there's that right there is what got you here. What's going to keep you going, and what's going to just make that impact. So absolutely, guys, get all back to Gary Picari. Live your interview.
Hell yeah. Nate, before we get into the size up 10, where can these folks find you and your variety of discount codes that you are lucky enough to share with all of us?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Just Nader Vision on Instagram. I am working my way in TikTok too. So if you want to hop over there and give me a follow, that'd be awesome. I'm not great at it, but Instagram's definitely where uh, I post dang near daily. And like Pip said, any of my discount codes are up there. And there's a lot of good companies that you guys are probably already using that um, get a little money off.
Yeah, you may as well, right? You may as well do it. I mean, and we're both not good at TikTok because we're old and our name's not Jason
Yeah.
Patton. So that's pretty much what I've discovered in the fire service that, unless you're Jason Patton, you're just not going to be good at TikTok.
Man, I'm not good at it. Not good at it.
I'm so trying. And I even have him to help me and I still suck at it. Like when my kids saw that I was interviewing him, they're like, "You know him? He's so funny on TikTok." I'm like, "Come on. Like, you know this dude because he's on TikTok?
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing wrong in life?"
I wish I had. I wish I knew. I wish I knew that algorithm. I don't.
We'll figure it out someday. Maybe somebody will help you in the comments. Someone will tell you what you need to do on TikTok, I'm sure.
Please. Yes.
You ready for the size up 10 there, Nate?
Sure, run it.
All right, here we go. Which one's it going to be, beach or mountains?
Mountains.
How about a night out or a night in?
A night in.
I figured you were a night in guy.
Mm-hmm.
What about a movie everyone needs to see?
If you haven't seen it, Tombstone.
Okay, that's a good. Tombstone is a firehouse movie. Like if that's on TV, we're watching it at the firehouse for sure.
Yeah, love that movie.
How about if you went on a cross-country road trip? Who would your celebrity co-pilot be?
Oh, dang. Matthew McConaughey.
He's been chosen before, so he's a popular person, but okay. I agree. I think he would be a great.
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
I think I know the answer to this next one, but do you make your bed every day?
Oh, Yes, I do. And I try
I
to get
figured
my
as much.
kids to make their bed every day too, but that does not happen.
Not at all. Not even. They're not even there yet. They're just not developed
No,
to get to that point of why it's so important.
exactly.
It's good to hear though, because you have girls and I have boys, so it's good to hear that the girls are just as bad at it as the boys are.
Girls are brothers. Let me tell you, girls are worse. They're like, have you ever seen girls selfie? When girls take selfies, and not like I'm one of those guys that I kind of judge sometimes. I look in the background and I'm like, do you think you could have cleaned up behind you a little bit or something? Like, pay attention to your surroundings. I mean, come on.
Oh,
My daughters, I love my daughters,
100%. I
love
work in a
them.
college town.
Yeah, boom.
I work in a college town. Girls' houses and dorm rooms way more disgusting than boys in college for
Horrible.
sure. When you go there for calls.
Ugh. Okay, there you go.
All right, couple more questions now that we've bashed teenage girls and their selfies on social media. How about a book everybody needs to read?
Oh man, how about Atomic Habits?
Atomic Habits, very good. It is on my bookshelf right below the desk that I sit on. So very good book. Very good way
Yeah.
to just kind of, and one of those books too that you can just pick up, flip to a page, read a little bit, and learn something every time you do it.
I want to give you a second book too. It's
Sure.
Tools of Titans by who's a 40-hour work or 4-hour work week guy. I'm forgetting his name right now.
Yeah, I have the book right below me, but I can't think of who wrote it. But it is down there too.
It is. Hold on a second. It is Tim Ferriss. It's right on my shelf back there. Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss. Yes, yep, that's a very good one that I have. All right, a couple more questions here. Which one are you taking, highways or back roads?
Back roads.
Seem like a back road dude for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How about a bucket list place you want to visit?
And I would love to go to Italy.
It's gorgeous. I highly recommend it. You've
Yeah.
never been, I take it then, right?
I've been to Canada.
I just watched on Netflix. If you watch on Netflix, Somebody Feeds Phil. I just watched his Venice episode and it was amazing. Like his Venice was so cool.
Yeah,
So
never been. I've been up to Canada, down to Mexico. Never been outside. My kid's been to Australia. I haven't left. I haven't.
Go for your kids. I'll be in Australia in less than a month. So
Yeah,
self promotion there, plug. 2 more questions. For you, is it football or football?
Well, I played soccer my whole life, up into college, but it's football.
They're still into the football. That's all right. I got you. No worries.
I mean,
There's no wrong answers here.
I love soccer. I love football, but I don't know if you're asking pronunciation or which one's the real football.
No, which one you like? Which one you're watching or playing? So
I'm gonna watch both. If the World Cup's on, I'm watching the World Cup, but I'm go Bills Mafia, so that's happening. By the way, the only team that's actually a New York team
this year.
Sorry, buddy. I know you're probably a Jets fan or a Giants fan, but yeah, only New York team, Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. So we don't even need to ask the 10th question. I'm just going to end this show now because you're trashing my football team, which deserves to be trashed. But you get like, how many Super Bowls did you guys lose? I can't remember again. Just check it.
Yeah.
4?
I know.
I think. Right?
4 in a row. Yeah.
Last question. That's it. I'm done arguing about this. Best advice you can give to your younger self, which I feel like you've already given, but
keep going, man. Yeah. Embrace the suck, embrace the difficulties, embrace hardship, because if you don't, that hardship is going to embrace you, and you're not going to overcome anything. So just keep going, pursue your dream, put in the work, and keep going.
I love it, man. It's my favorite question to ask at the end of these episodes because you've just listened to someone for a little over an hour talk about their life, their experiences, whether they're on the job, off the job, their family, and then you get this little piece of advice, this little tidbit from them, and that's one of those ones right there, right, where you just keep going, like embrace it and keep going. So Nate, I'm so happy we got to do this today, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I feel like we have to do a second one because we really didn't talk about fitness as much as I thought we were gonna.
It's okay. Hey, anytime you want me to come on, I am more than happy, and we can have a whole episode on fitness. But it's always awesome getting face to face with you, and I love it, man. I love what you're doing, what you've been doing, and what I know you're going to continue to keep doing.
Appreciate you, brother. And as always, man, I appreciate everybody that's listening. Sorry for there's going to be a little flub there before that if you're still listening, where I just had to take a call because sometimes family stuff does come up even when we're doing our other things that we do. So props to Sebi the engineer, because if he streams it all together seamlessly, you may not even know what happened, except I tell you things like that happened, and I don't really care, like being behind the scenes. But I haven't mentioned Sebi's name in a couple episodes, so thanks to Sebi for all the hard work he does to keep this podcast rolling and sounding cool, and yelling at me about audio levels and things that I don't even come close to understanding as it all goes. But until next time, I'm Pip. This is the Size Up by National Fire Radio, where what you do off the job matters.
National Fire Radio.